Welcome to San Diego Integral, January 14th, 2023. Our presentation for today is Playing in the Transformational Gap, Embarking on Your Hero's Journey to Experience More of Who You Are, presented by Rob McNamara and Cindy Lou Golin. Hello, everybody. Welcome to San Diego Integral. My name is Jerry Golick. I'm a member of San Diego Integral's leadership team. And today we are really excited to host Rob McNamara and Cindy Lou Golin with a presentation called Playing in the Transformational Gap, Embarking on Your Hero's Journey to Experience More of Who You Are. And we'll begin shortly, but first I want to mention that we will be recording this meeting, and the link for the recording will be posted on Meetup and on our YouTube channel in a couple of days. And we record in a speaker view, so you won't be on the recording unless you ask a question or comment to the whole group. And if you prefer not to be seen on video, you can always turn off your camera and type any questions you have in the chat box. And I'll also mention that we don't record any of the breakout sessions. For those of you who may be new to San Diego Integral, you can find all of our event information on our website at sandiegointegral.org. And you can find us on Meetup and Facebook. And you can find the links for those Meetup and Facebook's groups on our website as well. And if you join one of those groups, that you'll be automatically notified when we have a new event at San Diego Integral. And if you ever have any questions or comments about the meetings, you're welcome to contact one of our leadership team through either Meetup or Facebook. Next month, we're going to be meeting on February 11th, and Kim Barta will be returning. He was here a couple months ago, and this time his presentation will be on intergenerational patterns of consciousness. It should be great. He's always entertaining and insightful, and so please save a date for that. And finally, we invite you to visit our website at sandiegointegral.org and make a small donation to support San Diego Integral. And these donations just help us cover the meetup fees and web hosting fees and other expenses that we have. During our session today, there may be times for questions or comments, and there are a couple of ways you can do this. First of all, you can just unmute your mic and speak, or if you're more comfortable, you can raise your hand, and you can do that using the raise your hand button, and then one of our hosts will call on you. And if you're on a laptop or desktop computer, the button is on the lower edge of the screen under reactions. And if you're on a phone or tablet, you may have to touch the screen to activate the menu at the bottom, and there you'll find that reactions button. Now for today's presentation, our presenters have requested that if you have any questions that you need the answer to continue to do an exercise or something, please raise your hand and we can address those right away. But for any other questions, just put them in the chat, and then when we have question time, we'll go to the chat to find the questions. So our chat host will be also reviewing that. If you have technical questions, you can type them in the chat too, and we'll be looking for that. This formal part of this meeting will run for 2 hours until 6 p.m. Pacific time, so about a little less than 2 hours from now. And then after the formal meeting, we have 30 to 60 minutes of social time, which is just questions or answers or just discussion. It's just as if we were meeting live, it would be after the meeting, we'll hang out with each other and talk. So you're welcome to stay for that if you like. Before we start the presentation, though, I'd like to take a moment to welcome any newcomers. So if you're new to San Diego Integral, please just unmute yourself, and if you can just very briefly give us your name, where you're calling from, and how you heard about San Diego Integral. So is there anybody new?
So I went to the presentation and loved it, and I feel like this is a great community.
Great. Okay. And you're Joel, and where are you calling from, Joel?
San Diego.
Oh, in San Diego. Great. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Tom Habib.
Okay, who isn't? Okay. And did I see someone else with their hand up? Anybody else? Just if you're new, unmute yourself and give us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, I'm Ann Kerbel, and I'm calling from Florida. And I don't know, somebody posted it on Facebook and it looked interesting. And I like Ken Wilber. I was thinking maybe it's related.
It is related. Okay, great. Welcome, Ann. Is there anybody else?
I'm Ann Kay. I'm phoning from Victoria, BC in Canada. And I attended your last session and really enjoyed it. And I'm a member of the new Republic of the Heart with Eloy. So that's how I heard about this. Thank
Great.
you.
Well, welcome, Ann. Anyone else?
My name is Svetlana. I am calling from Toronto in Canada. I'm also new. And I heard about this. A friend sent me a link to this event on Facebook. It was a Facebook link.
Okay, great. Welcome, Svetlana.
Thank you.
Anybody else new? Okay, we'll call it here. So at this time, I would like to introduce our presenters. And I'm going to start with Rob. I first heard of Rob somewhere around 2008, I think it was, when my daughter was in an addiction recovery program in Southern Utah. And she told me about this amazing guy who would come into the gym where they were exercising, and he turned their workouts into a completely different and a really profound experience. And she couldn't describe it that well, and I didn't understand what she was talking about. But later I found out that this teacher was Rob McNamara, and he wrote a book about it called Strength to Awaken. And that book, along with his later book, The Elegant Self, have become two really anchors in my own journey and practice. And I've been privileged to meet Rob and his lovely and talented wife, Brooke, several times. And I've come to really appreciate his amazing intellect and his embodied and loving presence. He's somebody I truly admire. And among his other accomplishments, Rob was a teaching fellow at Harvard's Graduate School of Education. He's worked as a consultant and teacher and mentor in a number of capacities in organizational and learning and leadership development. And we're thrilled to have Rob here at San Diego Integral. Rob's co-presenter today is Cindy Lou Golin. Now, I don't believe I've met Cindy Lou personally, although I have enjoyed her work. For example, her presentation at the Integral European Conference. And I would say one data point for me, of course, is that anybody who teaches with Rob, I want to get to know better. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity to get to know you better, Cindy. Cindy Lou. And Cindy Lou, along with Rob, is a senior faculty at Real Life Programs. She's a transformational coach, facilitator, and consultant with a passion for translating learning into practice and supporting people in experiencing sustainable change. She has a PhD in transpersonal psychology, as well as degrees in clinical psychology and soul-centered leadership. She has taught graduate school courses on shadow and on integral theory and practice. So Cindy Lou and Rob, welcome to San Diego Integral, and I will turn it over to you.
Jerry, thanks so much for such a warm and generous welcome and intros. Silu, do you want to say anything?
Just thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited to jump in, and it's so fun that San Diego Integral is so international. People here from Canada and all over the States, and I'm calling from the UK. So, and Anne, I have to tell you, I grew up in Victoria. I just wanted you to know. Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks. Well, the first thing I'll just say is we're super excited to just say welcome and Happy New Year. And we were, so first, Cindy Lou and I met each other through the Integral Institute like 19 years ago. I didn't realize it, Cindy Lou, until you kind of, Jerry, just introducing us. And we initially met in the Integral Life Practice seminar series that we launched. And we've been doing this kind of stuff since, which is like so awesome. So, yeah, at any rate, Eloy, when you reached out to say, hey, can you guys come? I reached out to Cindy Lou and said, do you want to play? Knowing that it's midnight her time. So, I'm super grateful to be here with you, Cindy Lou. At any rate,
Thanks, me too.
yeah. So just given the new year, we're looking at this transformational gap and how do we grow into it. And but before we go there, what we'd like to do is use that fun chat. So the question is, what would you most like to experience from this gathering? And we want to potentiate this space between us. And we're going to be spending quite a bit of our time in breakouts, intimately kind of investigating what's next, what might be in the way, and practices that can support you. So that's kind of where we're headed. But the rigor of your sincerity coming out, like, what do you really want from Cindy Lou and I, from each other? What's going to really help you? So we'd love to see what you put into the chat. So take a moment, find something that really enlivens you, and type away. All right, I'm not seeing anything yet. Okay, we've got our first. Thank you. Connections. So connections, more skillful ways to connect more deeply. So the depth of connections and skillful means. Thanks, Boy. Eric, it's good to see you, brother. Attunement to each other and the emergent possibilities of this amazing gathering. And just, if you can, just soften your eyes and your heart and your hands as you're just listening to me reflect you back to you all. So a renewed sense of purpose. Yes, Jerry, absolutely. Enjoy the challenge of radical presence and vulnerability with others. Right on, Beth, right on. So interconnection, authenticity about your transformational journey. Nice. Thanks, Larry. Cindy Lou, attunement play, something new because we all came together. Nice. So beautiful metaphor here, tree root, discovering nutrient in the soil as we go. Lovely. So balancing between my desire and the need to support others. Beautiful tension. Well, thank you. So that just to feel and sense into where is everybody coming. This is us, and a little bit about Cindy Lou and I's aspiration here, which is to kind of look at how do we play, and we're really interested in playing inside of the transformational gap. And this transformational gap at its most kind of base level is this space of the actual world and the actual self that's already here and now. So some dimension of Rob is already actualized in this moment and how I'm showing up and what I'm doing in the world. And there's an actual. And so where we are right now and where you are right now, and then there's where you want to be or where you need to be. Or where you most sincerely desire to be. So that this is kind of the transformational gap. And of course, sometimes structure and kind of discipline is part of that bridge from here to there. But we want to really invoke this notion of play. Because playing means that we're entering into some kind of potentiated space that has rules and world spaces all to its own that invigorate you and enliven you and carry you somewhere else in ways that maybe If you're not playing and you're just being and you're kind of serious, you're usually just extending kind of the actual world. And that's fine too. And of course, as we get into practice architecture in a little bit, those things will be happening too. Second piece about this transit, I want to say one more thing, and then I'm going to hand it over to you, Silu. So I like to kind of often flip this in terms of you're in the driver's seat, and then to think about this transformational gap is maybe your life has you. Because I know for me, I resonate with that often. So like my life has a hold of Rob in this total enclosing way that I'm completely held by something. And that's kind of where I am today, and my relationships. And you know, Cindy Lou and I, we have a course coming up and we've been prepping for it. We've got, you know, there's things happening that are holding Rob. And then there's how life is yearning to hold Rob. So to sense in and feel, how is it that the world is wanting more of you? That's not quite here yet is another way to kind of sense and feel into this transformational gap. Thanks for your generous listening and receiving. Cindy Lou, over to you, my friend.
Thank you. That was beautiful, Rob. I love how your life has you. And how that,
Me too.
that opens me up.
Although I'm tortured a little bit by some of it as well.
Yeah, connected to what Rob was bringing in, I also want to just, a lot of times in some, you know, spiritual traditions, maybe more like traditional traditions, we often think about sort of things we desire as being, and being attached to things we desire to be maybe not spiritual. And I just want to really encourage us to really lean into the wisdom of our heart's desires. And as we kind of enter into this new year, it's always a great time to feel into what you really want and what really is calling your heart. And the way I see it, it's like something, I'm guessing the universe or spirit, whatever you want to call it, has planted like these desires in your heart. And as we kind of move towards creating those in our lives and really stepping into them and basically navigating the gap, as we navigate the gap from where we are here to our heart's desires, in that transformational gap is basically where we get to live our hero's journey. And once we basically get through there, through that transformational gap, we come out being even more of who we already are, of who we desire to be. And in some ways, it's like the universe is evolving us by planting, you know, these desires in our hearts and having us grow into more of who we can and want to be. So yes, we're going to play more today in this transformational gap. And I'll turn it back to you, Rob, to lead us into breakouts.
Thanks, Cindy Lou. So it's a simple question. It's not necessarily an easy one, but you know, at least in this moment, what is it that you most want for you in 2023? And again, flipping it, what most wants you might be another way to think about it. But you know, what do you most want for yourself? And think about this year that's quickly unfolding. So what's valuable, what's purposeful, what's meaningful for you? And then there's like, what do you want? What do you really need? What do you desire? And again, just the felt sense of sincerity is the quality that is most trustable in our estimation. Cindy Lou, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we'll be going into breakouts and we'll be in groups of 3 and we'll have about probably like 10 or 15 minutes, so plenty of time to share in your breakout what you most want to create for yourself in 2023. And I'm wondering, Rob, do we want to take time to do some examples or should we just jump in?
Well, yeah. So, like, what's one specific change that would be really meaningful for me? And the change is this: I've been trying to do like creative immersion weeks and like more typical work weeks, and it hasn't. I've had some success in the past year, but it hasn't taken root. And so what I'd like to do is have dedicated creative time, like during the day, not at 2 a.m., which I'm often doing, but during the day. And I want to get some like blocks of like a full day that I do this once a week. So that's kind of a really specific thing. Does that make sense, everybody?
And
Yeah.
I'll repeat it back too, so I'm hearing you say that meaningful change that you'd like to see for yourself in 2023 is to have really large chunks of creative time like blocked out for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
And I
And then
know,
the other, go ahead.
well, and my aspiration for the like doing a whole week of that hasn't happened. And so like I think the carving out a full day that's my like adjustment. How about you,
Okay.
Steve? Do you have one that you want to share?
Yeah, actually it's quite similar, slightly different, but
Yeah.
connected to that. Yeah. Mine is to spend more time in what I call the zone of genius, like spend more time, like my work week, really in working on things that are in alignment with my greatest gifts rather than, things I'm good at or competent at, or, maybe things I can delegate, but to really let myself spend more time doing what it is I'm really called to do.
Beautiful.
So those are our examples of what we want to create in 2023. The other thing we'll invite you to do in your breakout is to look at, if you were to kind of hone that into what specific quality would be helpful for you to facilitate that. So one specific quality that would really help you facilitate that, and we will put this in the chat so you'll have it in your breakout. Rob, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, for me, it's a courageous discernment is the quality. Like I need to discern when I need to kind of set limits and say no and push things off so that I can really put my creative focus as a priority, and that I can feel like I need this courageous quality to kind of press off like business meetings, and like it all needs to have a secondary level of importance in terms of what's really calling me for me to create.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the courage of discernment,
Thanks,
that
Tom.
sword of the no sword.
Right. Yeah.
To give a bigger yes. That's great.
Yeah.
And for me, it would be the joy of expressing, because I tend to be shy and, I can be really happy hiding out, just doing, I don't know, going for a walk. So to actually really move into the joy of expressing and sharing and really connecting in with that would be the quality. So joy of expressing would be my quality.
Awesome.
Great. So we'll do groups of 3. Everyone will have about 5 minutes each, so you can monitor your own time and, have conversations and really support each other in bringing out and explicating the responses to these questions. We'd love for you to arrive back after your breakout, knowing that quality that will really help facilitate the change that you'd like. Any questions before we go into breakout?
Just a quick comment: if you end up in a small room or something, I'll be moving things around to make sure there's free in the room.
Thank you. Thanks for juggling all this. And we put the questions in the chat, so if you forget what they are, they're there for you. Okay, shall we head in?
I'll just say enjoy and have fun, and just notice that your imagination is already totally free and can already taste changes that would totally delight you. I could be wrong, but I think if you check it out, you'll find that. But enjoy being with each other. It's great being with you all. So we'll see you in 15 minutes.
Welcome back. Rob, you want to take us into the next part?
Sure. Yeah. So really quick, let's revisit the chat and let's type in what did you come up with? Pulling up my chat here. So we can start with kind of what's that specific quality that came up, you know, that you think is going to be really helpful. And here's a cue. So what's the quality you came up with in your breakout, and the quality that will facilitate the change that you want to experience? Just to, again, to feel what's between us and what's within you. We're curious. So the joy of expressing, thanks Cindy Lou. So more dedication to meditation and Tai Chi practice. So this quality of dedication. Thank you for that one. You know, I relate to this devotional quality to that practice, which captures, I think, some of what you're pointing at. So Tom, what is still qualitative in our lives, and let's jumping around, what has just become compulsive? Do you want to say, Tom, do you want to say more about that?
It feels like I get on tracks that become compulsive. And if I don't revisit what I had hoped it would have brought, then as Cindy said, it's no longer alive and it's no longer vital. So I think with self-discipline comes a certain amount of compulsivity that really becomes rigid, and it atrophies us. And the fluidity to reevaluate, which I'm getting out of this, is, you know, what do I want next? And what attributes do I want to bring? Just qualitatively upgrades the direction in life.
Yeah. Yeah, right at the end of our group, one of the themes that came up was the quality of slowing down, which helps bring forward clarity. And Christine kind of named that, which was we all were resonating with that. It's something similar there. Thanks for bringing us more into you, Tom. So using my time consciously, looking forward to sharing the book I write with you all. Right on. Self-discipline to follow our hearts. Yeah. When it's easier just to coast. Yeah. So dual aspirations, reestablish my daily spiritual practice and focus on certain specific creative projects. So the quality is focus and energy. Lovely. Nice. So Kim, decisiveness to choose what new things I would like to try this year. Nice. So aliveness, energy, enthusiasm. Beautiful. These are great. I'm not going to read all of them just for the time's sake. And you guys can kind of commingle with these. Silu, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the hero's journey?
Sure. So yes, as we embark on creating more of these qualities in our life and launching into 2023 and what we want more of, it's just normal that obstacles arise, right? When we step out of our norm, when we step out of our comfort zone, that's kind of just the nature of how it works. So what we want to look at next in our breakouts is like what we imagine the obstacles might be that will kind of just show up on our own hero's journey. And you probably can reference past, maybe you can think about past years where you maybe set a New Year's resolution or a New Year's intention, or you said, hey, I'm going to do this practice, or maybe it's the very thing that you're talking about now, and then you found like what got in the way. So we want to take some time to really look at that, and that's often like where the transformational kind of juice is like looking at what that obstacle is and sort of facilitating ourselves through it or with it, around it, relating to it in a new and different way. So Rob, do you want to say anything more about obstacles or add to that?
No, I think we'll leave it. I think intuitively, as soon as we invoke where we want to go, this is what comes up. Like and probably, I know in our conversation, we already started visiting kind of things that are in the way. So as soon as you invoke, just know that the things that get in the way are already in the space. And again, like being linear about this is can really hold us up. And so again, we're in this creative place where your imagination can roam. And yeah, I guess I did say something else.
I'm glad.
Awesome. Cool. So we're going to go into new breakouts. You'll have about 3 minutes each. So just about 9 minutes or so. And let me just put this cue in so you can take it with you. So what obstacles have gotten in the way in the past? And then what may get in the way this year? And what's most likely to get in the way?
Yeah, let's put that in the chat before we go in.
Yeah. Can everybody see those prompts? Awesome. Welcome back. Go ahead, Eli.
No, I was just saying welcome back.
Awesome. As they say in some of the great traditions, one mind, brother, one mind. So we're going to use that chat again. And what is the obstacle that is most likely to get in your way? And I was just sharing, for me, it's the economic pressures of running a company. It's hard to cleave off this creative time that I really need. So that's one thing for me. But type yours in. I'd love to hear just a couple voices. And Svetlana, would you be willing to share a little bit? What's your obstacle?
An obstacle, potential obstacle is like floundering in my resolve.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing with us. Yeah. How about Joel? Go Chargers.
There you go. Yeah, so I was actually going to type this in, but yeah, for me, I think it's my delusion that working crazy hours is going to basically be the best way to deploy my energy and my focus,
Totally.
rather than kind of having qualitative impact on people rather than quantitative.
Yeah, yeah. My sister, a couple of years ago, she sent me this article on Darwin, and he, do you know this? He worked 4 hours a day, and the rest of the time he was, taking walks, just taking naps. Like, apparently this was kind of how the article painted his structure, but he'd work really hard for like 4 hours and then nothing. And I'm like,
How unevolved. Wow.
yeah, totally. At any rate, I hear you on that. Thanks for sharing. So you can keep typing it in. It'd be great to just kind of run through a few of these. I'll call on, let's see, Joanne. Can you share a little bit, please?
Yes, I I got transported. So yeah, what I guess what I came out with was I really like meditating. I stay too busy to do it.
Okay. Yeah. So the obstacle is kind of the busyness, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can anybody relate? You're not alone. You're not alone.
It would be great to see some of the obstacles typed into the chat. If you don't mind, just a word or two is all you need. Anyone not come up with an obstacle? That would be cool if you didn't. Okay, here's some.
Thanks for sharing.
Great.
And again, like sharing this with a playfulness in the heart and a sense of lightness, that you could totally just welcome this obstacle and like move with it. You could actually play with the obstacle, but we don't have to be serious about the obstacle. We can be, but we don't have to be. Falling back on old habits and mindset, not focusing on me this year. Nice. Not doing fundamentals, sleep, meditation, exercise. Yeah, I can't do it right. It won't work. Judgment. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Does anybody else want to share with the group verbally? Anybody inspired? All right. I'll take that as our cue to move on. Let's see. So we're going to transition. Lack of time. I hear you, Sandra. So we're going to transition to looking at practices. And we're going to go back into the same breakouts. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me momentarily.
Yeah, and while Rob brings that up, I'll just mention, so in the next breakout session, we'll be looking at practices, as Rob just said. And as you all know, like integral practice is kind of what we can do in the transformational gap to support us in getting from where we are now to where we want to be. And so we'll have an opportunity to really look at what is one practice that you could do to support yourself in getting some traction with this thing that you brought forward today. And it could include creating more of the quality that you came up with. And yeah, Rob, are you?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Awesome. Go for it.
Okay, so can you guys all see this slide?
I can.
Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up.
Yes.
Thanks, brother. All right. So this is something that Cindy Lou and I, we've been using for like close to a decade in our real life facilitator program. And so we wanted to share it with you. So this is kind of a checklist for practice design. This is to help you when you get into your next conversation. This is a PDF that's in the chat. You can download it and have it and take it with you, like use it. We've got some fun links here if you want to connect more with us, but that's for later. So we're just going to kind of quickly go through this. So one, the practice is beneficial to your development and your daily life. It just needs to be giving to your life, and it needs to be supporting your learning and development. See, Lou.
The next one, the practice has inherent value. It's enlivening and worth doing, like just for the sake of it. So just doing the practice alone is going to be valuable for you. Rob?
It has a healthy balance of nice challenge and lots of support.
Nice. It's in alignment with your vision or with what you want to create. It might be that change that you mentioned that you came up with earlier on our call today. Something that is in alignment with that, that's going to support you in getting toward that.
Yeah. Engagement is realistic and manageable in the context of your current actual life. So don't overcommit. Don't get all crazy with, I'm going to transform everything. Like, no. See what?
That's great. One little step at a time is a good philosophy. It's clear when you've successfully completed your practice or not. This is super important because, like, sometimes I remember working with someone who said, I'm going to be more present. And then we want to look at, okay, so at the end of the day, how do you know if you'll be more present? So you want to come up with something super specific. So you know it's like a yes or no whether or not you completed the practice. So in that example, you'd want to come up with like a micro version of that where, I stopped for at least once a day and I took a deep breath and I acknowledged that I am present. So you can just create a practice that's super clear as to yes or no. Cool.
So this next one's a big one. You are in integrity or alignment with it, or you can get into alignment with it. And this means that your high quality practices they welcome, and the totality of your being is behind them. And so we're not trying to kind of cut you and just have parts of you practicing here, but it's like the whole of Rob is being invited into this particular practice and injunction, and they're all welcome. So when I do my creative days, like when I go in, I can like the full Rob can go. I can take naps. I can go on a run. I never run. I could like go into reading things that I would never read. Like it's all welcome. Does that make sense? Okay. Cindy Lou,
Nice.
last one.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that last one you were speaking to, Rob, is also like I find, let's say I have a practice that I want to do, but there's a part of me actually that doesn't really want to do it. I can either shift the practice so that all of me wants to do it, or I can get that part of me that doesn't want to cooperate. So that's another way to look at that too. The last one, you're willing to commit and devote yourself to the practice. So if you don't want to commit to the practice, you're not willing to, then there's no reason to. You want to set yourself up for success. You want to come up with something you're really willing to commit to. You could, a great way to look at it too, it's like when I started running, I remember committing to running for 1 minute a day. That made it really doable for me. When I got out there and I ran for a minute, I often ended up running a mile or up to 5 even. But to commit to doing 1 minute, it was a lot easier for my ego to kind of get behind. So it's great to play, as one of our themes today, to really play with how we can come up with practices that are super supportive and that our ego is actually willing to get on board with. And, you know, something that's not on this list, but I want to also bring in as a sort of a parameter for what we want to create today. We want to come up with a practice that you'll engage for a month. Okay. We don't want to have it out there so you're just going to do it every day for the rest of your life. The ego won't want to get on board with that at all. And you'll probably have a lot of inner unconscious resistance. So we'll look at like a month experiment with some sort of practice that you could do regularly. And here are just some ideas, like as far as a checklist for designing something that is really going to support you in the transformational gap and getting some leverage toward what you want to create more of.
Cindy Lou, thank you.
Thank you.
So if you scroll up in the chat at 6:09, you'll see the PDF. It says Real Life Practice Design Checklist PDF. Go ahead and download that so you can have it in your breakouts. And then I'm going to put this prompt here. Let's see. Okay. So as you can see in the chat, I just put it in with your desired change and obstacle in mind. Come up with a practice, a new behavior that will carry you forward over the next month. Cindy Lou has been talking about this for like 20 years, and it works. Like if you can do this thing for the next month, you have the roots to grow a beautiful like practice forest that can lushly support the emergence of like a new ecosystem in your life. Cindy Lou, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's great. And I think we're planning to go into breakouts of the same people we were in the last one. Eloy, are we set up for that? That's cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, enjoy being with each other, and we'll be excited to see you when you come back. Awesome. Well, welcome back, everybody. That's exactly where we want to go. Is I'd love to hear. We'd love to hear what would you like to share. Who's got a new practice, and then there might be areas of where you'd like some support in shaping your practice. And so Cindy Lou and I would love to help you shape your practice. And maybe there might be insights and things that other people have done that using this community might help you craft something more powerful for yourself. So, but yeah, let's just start with who would like to chime in and share a little bit of what emerged in your conversation. What I'm seeing, yes, Eloy, we've got some breath work at the beginning of each meditation, exercise session, and walk. Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, I kind of got some help on that one. So the breath work is something that's been like I've been getting pinged on that, like really important. And then it is part of all these other practices. And Davey was kind enough to suggest like pinning it to so it's kind of that habit stacking idea.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for bringing that in, Eloy. Let's just take a moment and make sure everyone knows what that means. So like to add a new practice to existing practices is a way to just make it easier, habit stacking, as Eloy just referred to it. So let's say there's some things you already do, like brush your teeth, for example, or maybe there's other like your meditation practice. But if you stack something with it, it makes it a lot easier to create that as a new habit. Thank you for that. That's a good thing to bring in. Does anyone feel like they were struggling maybe with coming up with a practice, or you might not even be struggling, but maybe you just want some extra help in honing it, or questions about anything related to that?
Okay, I have a question. just in case. Does anybody have any? My practice is going to be to spend 15 minutes a day trying to find a personal assistant. Does anybody have any clues on how to find a personal assistant that I can trust? And yeah, I don't even know where to go other than, Craigslist or asking friends, but
Are you looking for like a virtual assistant
no, I'm looking for somebody
in person?
that can help me with paperwork, decluttering my house, doing
Okay.
it with me.
So you need someone in person. You said you're in Victoria, right?
No, I'm in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida. I'm sorry.
But I mean,
Okay.
even just if it's not like the agent, but do I go to an agency? Do I
Yeah.
what do I do to hire somebody, and somebody that's going to be in my house knowing all about my finances and things like that?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I think it's interesting you create it as a practice, because keep in mind, you can spend 15 minutes a day, but it might be something that you could have complete in 3 days, right? So you don't really know. I just want to put that out there. And I heard you already come up with a lot of really good suggestions. Like you could look on Craigslist, although, there's a bit of a roll of the dice because like you said, you won't know them personally. You could ask friends, which seems like a really great place to start. And I would encourage you to just listen, like to, your own suggestions, like the ones you've already brought in are super solid, and just take steps towards that. And it's almost like you won't know step 5 until you do step 1. So maybe just start with those things that you do know now and listen to what unfolds. And of course, if anyone else here has suggestions, maybe you can connect with Anne offline and let her know. Is that helpful, Anne?
Mm,
Not
not-
really.
I mean, I don't want to do the Craigslist because it's not, I don't
Yeah.
know them. They're not vetted, and I have already asked friends. And so I'm not sure where to go from here other than more of that, I guess.
Yeah, maybe more of that, Facebook friends. But I encourage you to holding the vision for what you want to create can be really helpful. And then just really listening to your own inner wisdom and taking the next step and the next step and the next step.
Okay.
Just real
Thank you,
quick.
Anne.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
Or- good. It's it. Tom, were you going
Tom
to
had something too.
go for it, brother? I'll follow you.
Craigslist makes me a little nervous. I would go to your local community college or college and describe what attributes you would like in this person. And because they will already know the person. And if it was some woman or young man that really had all those attributes you need, that makes me feel a little better than going to the wild blue yonder.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think the colleges, they're going to be too young. I want somebody with a little bit of experience, a little older that can oversee finances and, or not oversee it, but understand it and know how to prioritize stuff. I mean, I can do everything, but I can't seem to do it alone anymore. I just need to, it makes it 50% easier to do it with somebody.
Well, yeah. What comes up for me is I think your practice and is around being supported. And part of the practice of being more supported and joining with people to take care of yourself is getting that assistant, and there's lots of like really seasoned assistants that are no longer doing things full time and they're looking for part time. So you can find somebody on the other side of their career, like they've been doing this for 30, 40 years. They'd love to do it for 10 hours a week or something. I don't know what your hours are, but I don't think that the practice is necessarily around the assistant. I think that there's a daily practice of allowing yourself to be more supported and to be in relationship oriented around things that serve you. And like in this moment, there's a way that your body, mind, and heart can actually relax because you've got a community of people who are leaning in. And so your practice is just to feel that you're not alone in this, and that like this community is going to help potentially like surface options for people who might help. But and then here, you know, Cindy Lou and I, we're actually with you we're in your home right now. You know, and like I'm advocating like a practice of to allow yourself to be more supported is going to be a more generative kind of foundation. Because to Cindy Lou's point, you know, you might find somebody in 3 days, in which case go back to square one. But like a practice around being supported is like where I would steer your attention.
Yeah. How do you know I don't have that? I'm curious. I feel like I do. I feel like I have that.
Oh, I'm not saying that you don't, but the way that you receive with more depth, that you're wanting to kind of declutter and clarify, and it feels like simplify, and you want to be in more intimate connection with people. Like that's just my experience of you, and having a practice where it's there, and how do you receive it more fully is the practice that I would kind of advocate for. And then there's also like, I really want somebody in my home to really support. And yeah. So when you are with the people that are really with you and supportive, like it's almost like taste it more vividly and allow yourself to do less and be held and supported more.
Okay.
Something to chew on. But thanks for bringing us into your life a little bit. Others, what would be of value? Sometimes just sharing what you're going to do is a game changer. It often is. But there also might be questions.
Yeah, I have a question. So in your checklist, you have a healthy balance of challenge and support. And we're just talking about the support side. And what I'm curious is, you know, in myself, I can identify these different voices. And I've got this kind of harsh challenger part that likes to, like, you know, really push me, and it overdoes that. And I, you know, and finding how that balances with the supportive thing, because I sort of swing between those. And I'm curious about skillful ways of finding that more optimal, healthy balance of, you know, the challenging side, the supportive side, you know, the masculine compassion, the feminine compassion. There's different ways that's talked about in these circles. And yeah, I'd like to have a little more insight on how you think of that.
Yeah. Well, do you have a practice that you're thinking about?
Yeah, for me, I need to be doing more, well, I imagine that I need to be doing a little bit more journaling, reflecting at the end of the day, looking at, you know, what I've actually been doing and being accountable for that, rather than sort of the mushiness of like, oh, this is, you know, I kind of did these things, you know, today, but sometimes, you know, I'm not really doing exactly what I imagine that I'm doing or like to give myself credit for. And so I think there needs to be a little bit more discipline to that. But you know, there's been times in my life when I've been excessively disciplined in ways that were harmful for me. And so I have kind of a bit of a recoil to that, you know, really strong discipline, because I've done it and I've been burnt a bit by it. And, you know, at the same time, you know, I don't want to be swinging to this other end of the pendulum and losing that disciplined quality as well. So how to re-embrace that at a, you know, in a more integrated way, I guess, is the, you know, to, you know, be tracking. And I think another part of it, I guess, in terms of obstacles we talked about before, is I can get very judgmental of like, oh, you said you're going to do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, and the accountability then becomes an opening for the inner critic.
Totally. Well, so a way to make it more supportive is like there's a desk, and instead of like it's just kind of a hard desk, how would you beautify the desk where you're sincerely excited to sit at that particular desk at the end of the day? And it might be like it's got your favorite tea on it, and it's got this flower, and you play certain music that invokes kind of your reflectivity. And those are ways to kind of like add support where you're actually drawn into just sitting down because you can't wait to sip that tea, and you've got like your favorite pen that's right there and it's next to your paper. And what paper is really enjoyable to write on, or maybe it's not paper, maybe it's a whiteboard, but to think about like ways to kind of beautify and almost like entice you into this, like it's an alluring corner of your office or your home or your bedroom, or you're drawn there and you're excited about taking that particular seat. And that's one way to make it more supportive. But Cindy Lou is a genius on this kind of stuff. So I know you've probably got a bunch of things cooking over there, but that's one thing. And let's see what Cindy Lou has.
Yeah, and thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. I noticed that there's a smile. I lighten up a little bit to think like, instead of sitting here at my desk where I do everything sitting in front of my point, it's like, oh, I've got a little place and I've got some rocks there, and maybe like a branch that I like the smell of, and
totally,
stuff
brother.
like that,
Yeah.
some feathers or whatever. Yeah, then it becomes a little bit more attractive, a different setting. That would be good. Yeah. So thank you. And I can't see her on the screen. Oh, there you are, Cindy Lou. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, thanks, Rob. That's great. I love all that you brought to Eric. And I would add something in a really similar way would be when you sit down to do your review, what if you did it in dialogue with yourself and with the part of you that is like a good friend to you? Like, hey, Eric, here's what I did today. What do you think? And like you're in dialogue with that part of you that is super supportive and cares, and also would challenge you if needed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel a softening and warmth in my chest when you say that, to be more in dialogue and have a different, because again, that disciplinarian voice is very strong and active, and to have something more gentle, not eliminating challenge, but to bring in this other side feels good to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and I sense too that you're the kind of person who just shows up in real high integrity and as a good friend to others, and how nice that you could also show up that way for yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
And this is, Eric, thank you. I'm going to just kind of use you as an exemplar in this moment, but the inquiry of like support and challenge, like we just hit something just right, where there's enough challenge and then there's enough support, and like the quality, if we can all just kind of taste the tenderness and the kindness and the integrity, and like that's it. Like this balance, like that's it right there. Or at least that's my experience of you, Eric, in this moment. And that's kind of what we're looking for when we're architecting practices, is like the whole is welcomed in, and yeah, anyways. Well, I know we're like time flies, and it's almost 2 a.m. for Cindy Lou. And I know I'm always tempted to just keep going and like let's squeeze in one more, but I'm gonna actually just say thank you. And Cindy Lou, it's always a pleasure to play with you, and we're just really interested on how to make like development, learning, growth, and evolution really accessible, really grounded, and really pragmatic. And so that's part of what we're up to right now. And yes, we can go into all kinds of fun geeky stuff, as some of you have experienced. Myself and Cindy Lou go there, but we're really interested in how do we anchor and get into very, very core, meaningful transformations that's really accessible. And so thanks for playing. I hope that you've enjoyed each other. I hope that you're actually leaving with practices that are really meaningful and helpful, and that move you forward and bring more of who you are out into this beautiful world that actually needs more of you. So, and then with that said, Cindy Lou just dropped a link, and then if you're interested in checking out, we've got a new course that's kicking off at the end of the month that's going to be kind of taking these kinds of things and going further. And if you really want, or if your colleagues or family members or friends are looking for like a 13-week holding container that is like elegantly beautiful and full of rich practitioners, and like come play with us. So that's there. And then you can learn more about some of our programs on that second page of your handout, that PDF that you already have. So Silu, do you want to say anything in closing? And yeah, and we'll hand it back over to you.
Great. Thanks,
Great.
everyone. I just wanted to thank you all. And I really appreciate just sort of the flexibility, and like you made a lot of moves in the last 2 hours that we've had together. And I appreciate just how quickly you went there with us. And yeah, it's great to connect, and it's great to see you all. And hopefully I'll be back just to participate and enjoy this group in the future. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And thank you, Rob. And thanks, Eloy.
Yeah. Jerry,
Okay.
over to you, my friend. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Okay. Well, so thank you so much, Rob and Cindy Lou. That was, I think, wonderful. And we had some rich breakouts for sure, and good connections, and I think good ideas for practices moving forward into the year. So thank you so much. Round of applause for Rob and Cindy Lou. And as Rob mentioned, there are links there. If you don't know this, there's a thing in the bottom of the chat where you can save that chat on your device so that you can access that later if you want. But your website is reallifeprograms.org. And so we also put a link to sandiegointegral.org in there. And at this point, where I think we're near the end of our time here. Oh, one thing we would like to do though, we have some speakers scheduled all the way through May. And Tom, do you have the information to go over that with everybody? Just let them know what's coming up.
I do, but I have to look it up.
Okay, I can bring it up.
Next month is Kim Butter. The month after is going to be Layman Pascal. The month after that is Steve McIntosh. And then the month after that is our very own Karen Voorhees. So the dates are always the second Saturday of every month.
All right.
And I wanted to add real quickly for those of you that are new to integral theory, if you go to our website, the sandiegointegral.org, we have a resources page, and there's a couple of documents and a link to a video so you can learn more about integral theory. And find that we go down that rabbit hole, because this is a whole other world of perspective taking and a way to be in the world.
All right, thanks, Eloy. So at this point, we basically closed the formal part of the meeting, and some of you may want to drop off at this point. You could welcome to stick around though. So we're going to stay open. Usually it's 30 to 60 minutes, and it's just informal discussion, questions and answers. And again, just kind of like if we had a live meeting with each other, we'd be hanging out in the hallway after the meeting. So those of you who are dropping off, thanks for being here. Hope to see you next month on the 11th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And Rob and Cindy Lou, I think we're going to stick around for a while. Cindy Lou was, you could decide at being 2 o'clock in the morning and take care of yourself.
Thank you. I'm here though.
You don't look like a 2 o'clock in the morning tired person though. You look fresh and energized.
I think it's the energy of this group has really uplifted me. Thanks.
Well, I'd love to hear more about your course too. So if that's available in the discussion too.
Yeah, let me mention that one thing that you got, that if it's not busy, you just unmute yourself and ask you have questions or comments, just jump in. If it does start to get a little bit crowded or whatever, again, you can go down to the bottom of the screen to reactions and click the raise your hand button, and then we'll just take people in order with comments or questions.
Oh yeah, and there'll be a recording posted in a couple of days, so we'll get that up as soon as we can.
You guys, I'm gonna hop off, and it's been lovely being with all of you. I would love to kind of hang and just jam with kind of conversations, but I have a very rare babysitter, and I get a date with my wife. So she's eagerly awaiting me. But thanks so much for having us again. And
yeah, say hi to Brooke for us.
Yeah, say hi to Brooke, and great seeing you, Rob. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you,
thanks,
Rob.
Jerry.
Bye, Rob. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
All right, bye.
I love when Rob started the meeting with some dimension of me is already actualized here right now. And I kind of like that, because so much of what we do is aspirational rather than, the abundance of what we're capable of doing. And most of the people that show up in these events, you've accomplished a lot. I mean, you're really pushing that evolutionary imperative that wants to emerge. So I kind of like he said that. I'm not totally actualized, but there is some part of me that resonates with all of that energy. And everyone here can feel that, because we come here to share that energy, to take into our lives and make a difference. So I really appreciate that acknowledgement that even though I'm incomplete, we have accomplished something.
I would suggest too, Tom, that maybe you are actualized and you just don't know it yet.
Thank you for saying that.
I think it's true.
Cindy Lou, you must be in London or Britain or somewhere. I missed the beginning of the meeting.
Yes, that's right. I'm in the UK. I'm a little farther north of London, but yes.
Okay, just wondered, just being idly curious. Thank you.
Weren't you in California previously?
Yes, totally. I spent a lot of time in California still, but I'm living here now.
Wow.
I'm curious, what took you to England?
I fell in love with a British man.
That'll do it.
His parents, they're in their 90s, and so we want to spend time with them at this stage in their life and be close for them.
You learned how to drive on the wrong side of the road?
No, I don't drive anywhere. I let my husband drive me. I haven't driven once here. I don't think I want to. Too much at risk.
You miss California. Are you pretty comfortable in London or England?
I love it here, but I always miss California. But I love being here too. I spend a lot of time in California still. I'm leaving on Monday to head back for a while.
Not to be overly shallow, and I am in Northern California. I do keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening in the UK. And it's actually been quite interesting, all of the political and economic chaos. I recommend dipping into Sky News or something like that, free, right? For anybody that's interested. Have found it interesting lately.
There sure is lots going on in the world, that's for sure.
I'm actually intrigued to pick up on what Tom had said about part of us actualized now, and what Rob had said about, maybe, if your life has you and you're completely held by something. And I wrote down how, the world is wanting more of you that's not quite here yet. But if there's part of you that's already okay, does that make it easier to have that forward pull is maybe more gentle because there's more of a connectedness than maybe we're used to seeing? It's easy to dichotomize and, here's all the ways right now that I'm not where I want to be. And, here's who I should be. And if there's just, what about that energy that Rob was bringing about play and gentleness and inquiry, and how can that, and I'm doing a lot with my body and with my hands tonight in my groups and whatnot, how does that help cradle that journey differently?
That's beautiful. Beth, I wonder, what would you say to yourself about how you're just in the perfect place right now where you are?
It does make it easier, that more self-acceptance gives a lot of spaciousness for something else, I think, to more organically emerge. Rather, it's not this list of who I'm not. And, again, I'm doing a lot of, looking at these dichotomies that I'm going like, oh, well, what is there to do? And getting with one of my breakout partners, how does, and this, to-do list world and this creative space, and how do they actually dialogue together differently than what I've known or foreseen before.
I really like that observation, Beth, because one of the things I say in doing a lot of therapy is people don't get in trouble because they change. They get in trouble because they don't change. And with self-acceptance and familiarity with evolution, it doesn't have to be an apocalyptic change. The painful that we see so many people do is it's a little more cerebral. And because we've done it before, the ambiguity and the anxiety about the unknown, I think, is a little bit more easy. So I really like what you just came up with. Is, kind of like when we enter it, like, okay, next ride, I'm ready for the next ride. Where are we going? It's really inviting the transformation. I know a lot of you know I do a lot of work in intimacy. I mean, that's a constant evolutionary process. And it still slaps him upside the head as a wake-up call. But boy, it takes us places that I never imagined.
I think there's go ahead, Jerry.
I was just going to say, my experience with Rob over the years, and again, Cindy Lou, I'm looking forward to, learning more from you. I see you bring, the two of you, I see how you work so well together, and yet slightly different approaches and aspects of things. But Rob seems to have, there's this part of him, like we did some embodiment workshops and stuff with him in Boulder at the old Integral Living Rooms and whatnot. And I keep seeing this thing where he brings out in me the things like the things that I already know, that and then ask the question like, and does that serve me well or not? You know, like, and there are things that I mean, I know them already, but I'm not looking at them, I'm not paying attention to them. And so he just, I love his, he brings that, he evokes that in me, just, and I think in many others, to just pay attention at that level of what it is that is already present, and you know, from that being able to move forward. It's very deep and profound to me. It's like and like, and people like, and again, Cindy, I think you some of the things you mentioned there are like that. They're just like, that's so obvious, and I have spent my whole life not seeing it, you know. So that's I love being around just, you know, amazing teachers like you.
I've had an interesting shift that I wanted to share. Is like, I've always beat myself up for my shortcomings, and somewhere in the last couple of months, it's like there are things that I'm having trouble with are like an invitation for going deeper, instead of a judgment about the quality of, you know, like, I don't know, like if I'm not doing something, like I put in, you know, I realize I haven't spent a lot of time doing breath work, and that's one of the things I'm adding as a practice. But it's when it's the difference between saying I'm a crummy breath work person and what's wrong with me for not doing breath work, and it just makes it harder to do it than to say, oh, this thing keeps calling me, and I can gently fold it in and make it more and more a part of my practices, and you know, tying it into like some of the things you guys talked about, like, well, why do I even want to do this? You know, like, well, it ties into, you know, feeling of aliveness and being able to be more of service, and it just fills in it. Like, if I take the bigger picture of where that serves, it just seems so much easier to want to fold it in.
I love that. I hear you, like, really following sort of your aspirational self rather than like the judgment or the inner critic. Thanks, Eli. That's beautiful.
Guys, there's something I want to share. I might have shared this with a lot of people already, but not in the way that I like to talk to you guys about. It feels like I am having not internal dialogue, but having a relationship with someone that's in my head. And it's more real than anything I experienced before. So a lot of times I found journaling help. That worked well in the past, but more more recently, this voice, right? The other person that I'm talking to with, you know, it was more of a introspection practice, but now it's becoming more real than I can handle. It's it almost feel like I sometimes upset the other person that is supposed to be helping me, the one that's looking at the better side, the positive side of the things. And I talked to therapists, I wrote letter to family, and now I'm becoming more keeping it to myself. But today's meeting somehow it helped me wanting to share this somehow. It's becoming a very strange experience, the very least. But at the same time, it's very encouraging somehow. not sure how to put this, but I always hear this voice talking to me through other people, that I'm being supported. At the same time, I'm not really having a honest and straightforward relationship with that that person in me. That's all I want to share.
Thanks for sharing that, Brian. It sounds like you're really doing what you need to do to support yourself too, at this time, which is great.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been thinking about moving to Europe, particularly Holland and UK. That's in my list, and all I have to do is just to be do my work here, become a programmer and move there.
Wow. Where are you now, in California?
Yeah, in California.
Mm.
So when's our next meeting?
Our next meeting here at San Diego Integral will be February 11th, 4
Okay.
p.m. Pacific time. You can check that out on our website, or which is sandiegointegral.org, or the meetup.
Sounds
Find
good.
us on Meetup.
Yes. I've been really advised not to join any spiritual, not to engage in any spirituality practice or information. So I was a little bit hesitant earlier if I should join this group, by an idea that just trying to figure out this is about. Sounds pretty general, not specific. Yeah.
We're trying to figure out what it's about too.
Integral is really inclusive. So it doesn't matter what tradition or practice you come from, and it gives location to everything. That's the beauty of it. And, different ones of us find different spiritual practices that resonate with us wherever we are developmentally. Somebody said today, and I don't see it on still, I'm a Jubal. I never heard that. A Jewish Buddhist. So I told her, I'm a Kobo, a former Catholic, Kabul, a former Catholic Buddhist orientation. And I feel free to substitute whatever gives me the greatest ride at the moment. I remember a Catholic priest in Orange County where I work called Catholics like me supermarket Catholics. And I said, well, yeah, why shouldn't I be?
What did he mean by supermarket Catholic?
Picking and choosing different parts of the discipline that you like. And he was all worked up about it. And I was like, well, isn't that a healthy relationship to anything? The irony of it all, with Jesus being such a revolutionary at the time. So
Emily asked about the course, and I'm curious about it more.
Sure, I can
Cindy
answer. Yeah, I can answer any questions. So yeah, basically, Self-Development 101, myself, Rob McNamara, and our colleague Gabe Wilson, we're all facilitating it. And it's a coaching program where we meet every week for a period, let's see, between January and April. Off the top of my head, I think it's 13 weeks. And we alternate with all coming together and kind of with more, let's say, content around what we're doing, and then alternately on bi-weekly having small group coaching calls. And so that's the format. So you'll be in, if people who sign up for it will be in the same like small coaching group for the whole period, which is great because as you guys probably know, like working in a, you know, being supported in a collective practice community is really amazing, especially it's a small group of 5 or 6 people. So there's that added value of getting to practice with others in a really intimate way and to be coached by Rob, myself, or Gabe. And, you know, we use an integral model, it's integrally informed, and it's really about learning how, in a very experiential way, like how to basically develop yourself and just the wisdom of kind of our own evolution and our own evolutionary impulses within ourselves. Yeah, does that answer? Where's Emily? Did she hop off? Oh, there
I'm
she is.
here.
Hey, Emily, did you have a specific question? Any specific questions I can answer?
I can't think of them. I was curious about the format and what, you know, what, I guess, who's it for? I'm a little bit, you know, familiar with integral, but I haven't dived into it in any depth.
Yeah, it doesn't require any, there's no prerequisite of integral knowledge. It's for everyone. It's for anyone who really wants to grow and develop and learn more about themselves, basically. And, you know, it's sort of set up in a way where the structures allow for everyone to bring sort of their own content and what they most desire. So you'll end up with a very customized, like, personal growth program, basically.
And so is there homework? I mean, practices, things that are
There probably there wouldn't be, let's say, homework necessarily, but there'll definitely be actions or practices. Usually what happens is people come together for coaching, and in order, like a lot of times in coaching or in a program, there'll be sort of like a state aha, like where you learn something new. It's like, oh, like you'll expand in your awareness. And the only way to really anchor that into your life is to have action steps or practices to sort of basically translate the aha into like something actionable. And so, yes, that's sort of part of, and then, you know, we basically do practices as best we can. Like Rob and Gabe and I, we use the word play a lot. We kind of play, you know, with practices or action steps. And, you know, it's not about being successful and doing 100%. It's more about what did you learn while you were engaged in the process. And kind of just really taking a learning orientation to all of it. There's no right, wrong at all.
Okay.
Everything can be used for our learning. So we really orient that way as well.
Eloy, put the information up in the chat.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat. Thanks a lot. Great.
Yes,
That
I
takes
followed the link from before and I was looking through it.
And Emily, too, if there should be an email address somewhere on the website or on that page even. Reach out and myself or Rob or Gabe can connect with you one-on-one if you have more specific questions or you want to really like share more about, you know, what you're wanting and see if it's a good match for you. We can help you determine that. Yeah.
Great.
Please.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Eloy, yeah, for sure. Eloy, you had a question? Oh, sorry, Emily, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say thank you all. I just wanted to say good night. It's later here. I'm on the East Coast. So good night, y'all. And thanks so much.
Good night. Thank you.
Emily.
Good night.
All right. Bye, guys.
Yeah,
So
I didn't have any
gonna
more
be-
specific question. I just wanted to hear more
Okay,
about it. Yeah.
cool.
I was at your session last.
I know.
Yeah. So I got a little bit
I'm
of
glad
flavor,
you were. Yeah.
yeah, it worked out well.
Cindy, you going to be at IEC this year?
I'm really hoping to be. Yep. That's my plan.
Jerry and Tom are planning to go, and Christine.
Oh, cool. That's fun.
I think Sandy's going to be there too.
Are you presenting, Tom? Awesome. Do you know what you're doing yet?
anyone that applied 4 years ago when the last one kind of got grandfathered in. So I'm
Right.
looking at that material and trying to update it at this point. So it's probably going to be something on WeSpace and integrating the work I'm doing on highly sensitive people also.
Great.
So
Nice. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm in that same group.
and you're upgrading your material for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More to suit the theme, the current theme.
What is the theme again? Was it?
I think it's planetary awakening.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
They're not real
Slap that planet around.
I kind of like it though, because it bounces off of what the future conference was. And that was fun. And Sedona was a great place for it. Jeez.
Yeah, it was great being with you in that, and appreciated your MC role, Tom.
Thank you.
It was a wonderful job. Just curious on IEC, do you happen to know if they're going to do a hybrid again, or is it going to be just in person this year?
Just in person.
Just in person.
Oh, really? No hybrid?
No
I was afraid of that because I've participated the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, whatever. I've liked having that opportunity. I don't know that I'd make it there in person, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's been important to be plugged in.
It's worth going. And if you're going to go, try to do the Magical Mystery Tour. Because hanging out with people for 3 days and, going to different places and using that energy to generate connection, it's just so much fun. The bathhouses, the crypts, the monasteries, the sweat lodge. Oh my God.
Music.
The music. Yeah, the music and the by a group of gypsies in a salt mine that was used as a place where they store wine is called a
cellar.
Yeah, a big, huge one.
Hey, Cindy Lou, what is your specialty? I remember reading it, and now I don't. For some reason, I'm not recalling it. But do you have an area?
I suppose it's. I mean, human transformation is probably my specialty, but I do a lot of shadow work, or I call it shadow play.
Yeah, that's what I had.
I
you
have
listed
a new
on
book. Yeah, coming out.
Okay, so
soon.
what's the book?
It's called The Shadow Playbook. It's not quite. It's just weeks away from publication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, send us a link, and we'll post it on the comments for this meetup, so people will know where. Because I'd be very interested to see what you.
Okay,
say
great.
about shadow work and shadow play. Well, I
Well,
like the
I
word
can
shadow
put
play versus shadow work. That's really quite a distinction.
Yeah, it's really fun. And what's cool too is I put in, I think that's the website, that's the Shadow Playbook, where you can sign up for the newsletter and I'll announce when it's released. But it's has over 100 shadow play practices.
Cool.
Over 100. So there's a lot of variety and themed chapters related to dream work, financial freedom, death, work, romance.
Well, if you'd like to come back and talk about shadow play sometime, we could do that as well.
Thank you. Absolutely. I'd love to. Thanks for offering.
Yeah, just to put a tag on something for who knows how mysteriously things worked. I noticed a couple of people here tonight, newer, were from the Relational Leadership Academy, which the Connection Institute, like Svetlana and Anne, does stuff with them. And I just wonder, when I hear that shadow playbook, it seems like something that would be interesting to a group like that, because they have a lot of exercises they do that are, cultivating awareness, and they've explicitly done shadow work in other ways. But that might be an avenue for, making a connection with somebody who saw you here to say like, oh yeah, how might that infiltrate and inform some of what they might want to put together or have you come in, or who knows? I don't know.
Cool. Thanks.
So,
And what was that organization again? A relational.
Yeah, Relational Leadership Academy. It's
Okay.
They used to teach circling, so it's in the circling and
Oh,
authentic
circling, for sure.
relating
Okay.
traditions. And this is Peter Benjamin was one of the founders, and I'm trying to think who else was involved with it. I know there's a Circling Europe, and then this was kind of like one of the U.S. things. And the Connection Institute, I think .net is perhaps the umbrella organization for that. And then as a subset is their academy that has some learning materials as well as ongoing practice sessions, or have, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 things a week that happen. So.
Wow, cool. Yeah, I know a lot of circling people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of integral people like circling.
Yes.
That's cool. Thanks, Eric. I should probably say goodnight to you all. It's 2:30 now.
Yeah.
a.m.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, Cindy Lou.
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's good to know you guys exist too. I didn't realize that the San Diego integral community is so hopping and happening. I'll have to join you guys again just to participate and be with you all.
Yeah, great.
I look forward to it.
More early morning ones for us so that it's easier on the Europeans.
Yeah, so we have that option on the fourth Saturday. We often, well, not often, we sometimes do a earlier in the day, like at 10 a.m.
Okay, cool.
Pacific.
And I think the next one you're having, I'll actually be in Pacific time. So that's
okay.
Cool.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Great being
Cindy.
with you.
Yeah,
Thanks so
Cindy.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna run also.
Yeah, I think we're right there. Yeah.
The time I'm gonna catch the save the chat stuff before we sign
right
off
ahead.
here.
Yeah,
I appreciate that you have the transcript on there too, Eloy, because I find that helpful too to go back and listen.
Yeah, I've got another tool I've been playing with that I'll hopefully have it working next time. That does a transcription. It actually does it'll like summarize things that you highlight. Like if Rob said something, it'll take the 10 sentences that he says and then do a 1 or 2 sentence summary of that.
Is this AI?
Yeah.
The Chat GPT?
No, it's called Fathom. Like Fathom, not phantom like a disappearing thing, but Fathom like the measurement.
I did get on that Chat GPT last night and I couldn't get off of it.
Yeah.
It was like, holy crap, the information is pulling up one after another.
Yeah.
Just like you said, Eloy.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a talk next Saturday for my Buddhist group, calling it Interbeing, Integral Theory, and AI. And I'm going to use AI to talk about the holonic theory, and then tie that into the Buddhist concept of interbeing. And the Chat GPT does a really nice job of blending the two, comparing and contrasting. And then I've added in things like fractals and morphogenic fields, and it does a nice job of saying, yeah, here's how these things all line up together, and here's where they don't. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, wow. Sounds fun.
Hello.
Thank you. Oops, I was just going to say something to Tom, but he's engaged. But
did you get the chat yet, Eric?
Yeah, I did save what I needed to, and thank you. And
what did you want to say, Eric?
I just want to say I appreciate those moments, like when we were gathered in an informal, and what you brought, because I really feel the energy shifting and the attention, and I just really savor those moments when they happen in the group, because I just feel the group, shifting in different ways, and it feels like it brings that coherence. And thank you for that.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run.
Okay. Take care.
I'm gonna close
it
next
month. See you next month.
All right.
Bye.
For further information, including upcoming events, resources, links to our Facebook and Meetup pages, and our fabulous donate button, please visit our website at sandiegointegral.org. Donations are greatly appreciated and help us to continue to provide information and connection within the integral community.